All right, so yesterday's video talked about the subpoena to Sony and how that should be getting more information on that by the end of this week. Hopefully we'll get some interesting stuff on the inner workings of the video game business, on what Sony has been doing, and specifically I think their third party stuff. That's going to be the most important thing to me that I want to see, the most interesting thing I should say that I want to see, just their third party dealings and maybe some information as to what's inside of those deals and how potentially those deals could have affected Xbox. But next week's actually going to be a pretty big week overall for going forward with the Activision Blizzard stuff and stuff coming up in the future. And IDAS here puts together some big dates to look forward to if you are following this case. So first of all, we have between February 8th and February 10th, the provisional findings and remedies, if they are required, will be coming out from the CMA. This is just their findings on this case, and then potential remedies would be things that Xbox and third parties and stuff would have to get together and decide if these remedies are going to be done, what could be coming out of it, what changes need to be made for this deal in order for it to potentially go through. Then there's April 11th, which is going to be the final decision from the European Commission. April 12th, a motion for a preliminary injunction on the gamers lawsuit. That's like that lawsuit that was brought forward against Microsoft for this deal. People are saying that's like Sony fans got binding together and suing Microsoft. Then you have April 18th, 2023, which is the second extension of the original outside date. And if Microsoft is to quit by that date, they have to pay that termination fee of $2.5 billion. And if they don't, the outside date gets extended until July 18th, 2023. April 26th, a final report and remedies, if required, from the CMA. So there are a final report on their decision for this deal, whether it goes through, whether it gets blocked, whether there are going to be remedies, concessions made for this deal, and what that will mean. Xbox, like Game Pass, all type of stuff. Maybe they're going to have more concessions than they've already talked about and already said, which would be like the 10-year deals that they've offered to Nintendo, to PlayStation, to Steam, all that type of stuff. Then April 28th, there will be a decision from New Zealand. April to May 2023, a decision from the Chinese regulatory body, the SAMR. July 18th, 2023, the end of the second extension and final outside date in the merger agreement. If Microsoft quits by that date, they have to pay that $3 billion termination fee. If they don't, they'll have to renegotiate the outside date with ABK. So there's that termination fee in there, $3 billion, $2.5 billion. I don't know how much Xbox, Microsoft are scared of $3 billion with the amount of cash that they have, with the amount of money that they have. Probably isn't that massive of a deal. I mean, you don't want to lose $3 billion, but they have to go ahead and pay that termination fee if that's the better outcome for Microsoft, for Xbox, rather than continuing along with this deal. They'll probably just go ahead and do it. August 2nd, the beginning of the FTC in-house trial. Then early 2024, a decision from the FTC administrative law judge. So I believe August 2nd, that's if they do go to that trial. It's if they do go to court rather than getting this deal remedied before and coming to some sort of decision or some sort of agreement on the case. So, but we'll see if that happens. Now, they say here, on the other hand, let's set the expectations for next week. The provisional findings from the CMA is a document that essentially works like a draft decision. It must be followed by the final report. And I think we've seen similar stuff like this with the provisional findings, or at least from the FTC, they decided to go ahead and block the deal or pseudo block the deal. And then we saw their findings previous to that. It says here the provisional findings will be published in a non-confidential form on the CMA's website. So we're all going to be able to see this. I believe that means it's going to be public, non-confidential. Expect at least a 60 to 80 pages, although I think that this case is more likely to be 120 to 170 pages. There are PFs that go beyond 400 pages, so it could be a lot of reading for those interested. And although it may happen, normally there are no changes between the provisional findings and the final report regarding statutory questions and the gist of the case. That's why the provisional findings are so relevant. If there is a change, the CMA has to publish on its website and disclose to all the relevant parties its reasons for changing its provisional findings in order to provide the parties with an opportunity to comment prior to the publication of the final report. So that PF is essentially, there isn't going to be a big change between that and the final report, unless, again, they publish that and then they have the parties giving them the ability to respond. Now, IDAS also publishes this, or posted this, which is the three main scenarios that the provisional findings will create. There's scenario A, deal gets blocked. Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard, the whole thing, it gets blocked. Third parties will have 21 days to comment on these provisional findings, and then a notice for possible remedies may also be published. And then once all the responses are submitted, the CMA finalizes their report. And if that happens, it says here, I think that the deal will be very likely done, but expect more developments at least until the end of April. Then you have B, the deal gets approved without remedies. And I believe this just means deals approved, no concessions. Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard, the merger and acquisition is going to go through. But it says here, Microsoft and ABK and third parties will have at least 21 days. Again, 21 days to respond to this decision. And if this happens, the deal is very likely to go through, but do expect more developments until the end of April. Then in May, June, and July, decisions from the rest of the jurisdictions. And then in August, maybe the FTC trial if Microsoft hasn't closed the deal before that. And that's the thing, right? It may not go all the way to August in terms of the FTC thing, but it may. But I'm thinking that if the CMA pushes this deal through, Microsoft, Xbox, they take that and they go to the FTC and say, hey, look, the CMA, they're a huge authority, right? They're saying it's good. Here is the deal. Here are potential remedies or whatever that we've done, or maybe there's no remedies. Let's come to a deal with the FTC and let's get this thing done. I'm thinking that's something that could potentially happen. Then you have C. It says the deal is anti-competitive but can be fixed through remedies. And this is a scenario where they're going to have to make concessions if it is deemed anti-competitive. Again, 21 days to comment. And they say a notice of possible remedies will also be published where the CMA will initially propose remedies to address any competition concerns. Then Microsoft and ABK and third parties will have 7 days to comment on the remedies notice. And then once all the responses have been considered, including a remedies working paper where the parties and the CMA will have been discussing options for remedies, the CMA will finalize its report and announce its decision. And Idas here says this is the most complex and uncertain scenario because depending on the remedies proposed, the Microsoft, ABK, are they willing to accept this, and or do they want to just cancel this deal and not make it go through? And to me, I don't know what Microsoft and ABK are thinking. I think ABK is thinking like, hey, we don't care. Just if you would just take our business, we're trying to sell this thing. Whatever remedies you have to do on an Xbox, decide whether that means not putting any of your games on Xbox Game Pass or whatever. We don't care. We're selling it to you, so it's really up to you. Maybe, I don't know. There's probably other things in there that could affect ABK as a business that they would have to work through, and maybe some stuff they don't want to accept. But if you're at Microsoft, you're at Xbox. To me, it's like, I think it's pretty clear right now that they want this deal to go through more for expanding their mobile side of things, because mobile has the greatest reach and Xbox's strategy is to expand gaming out to as many people as possible. So I feel like they would be more interested in making concessions that could affect Game Pass, that could affect the Xbox side of things, whether that means some games aren't going to go onto Game Pass, or some of these games can also go into the PlayStation Plus subscription service. I'm not for that. I think that if there are effects on this, if this deal has remedies where they're like, you can't put certain games in the Game Pass, I just scrap the deal. I'd rather Microsoft and Xbox go spend their money elsewhere and pick up acquisitions where these games are all coming to Xbox Game Pass Day one. But who knows? Maybe the Game Pass is the number one item that Xbox wants, and they're not going to accept any concessions or any remedies that would affect the subscription service. It's probably up there. I mean, it's probably one of the most important things with this deal is to get these games into Game Pass Day one so that they can expand the subscription and the people subscribing to the service and to the ecosystem. But I think the mobile side of thing, where there's just a ton of money there that is already, the phones are already in everybody's hands, that they really want to expand on that with like the Diablo Immortals and the Call of Duty Mobile, the Candy Crush, all of that type of stuff. So we'll see what those remedies are if it ever actually does come to that. And finally, IDA says here, in any case, if this happens and the parties and the CMA agree on a remedy package, expect more developments until the end of April. Responses to the PF from third parties, Microsoft and ABK, responses to the remedies notice from Microsoft and ABK, and third parties, final report, and more. So just a lot of stuff that would be coming out. Responses from Microsoft, responses from Activision, responses from third parties, and then the final report on those responses. And then the CMA has 12 extra weeks following publication of its final report to negotiate and finalize remedies or order them. So this would go on at least until the end of July 2023. So there it is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening. I think it's starting to ramp up now. April is going to be a big time, and this deal, at least like he says here, even if it gets blocked, is going to be going on until the end of April, this stuff here, but we'll see what all happens in the next upcoming weeks. And the subpoena from Sony stuff coming up at the end of this week, I think that's going to be really interesting. And then all of the other dates and the decisions from the CMA and the FTC and the European Commission. But right now, this timeline essentially is what most people said right at the beginning of the announcement of this acquisition, was that we're probably not going to hear anything, or it's not going to be finalized until the end of June. A lot of people got hopes up that it would be sooner, myself included, but end of June, early July, I guess. That's the main timeline. So I don't think anything is even really that off track. So those predictions, they probably took into account that all of this stuff was going to go on. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens going forward. I don't really think that there is this going in any direction right now, whether it's more for it going through or more for it getting blocked. You know, the FTC sued to block, but that seems like an extremely just political thing. And if the CMA comes out and says, okay, we're passing this deal, I think that Xbox will be able to go to the FTC and say, hey, they did it, so let's come to a deal so we don't have to go to court in August. That's just my layman's thought on this. I could be completely wrong, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video.
Bye.